Okay, so tonight we're with Flim, or F-Lim, Faith.
Hello.
How you doing, Faith?
I'm great.
Cool. So since we're in It's New York, Faith lives here in It's New York, and we wanted to interview, a New York scavenger.
A true New York scavenger.
It's also cool, too, because, we often are interviewing mainly full-time people. People is like us who do this full-time. So it's interesting for us to interview someone that still has a full-time job and being part-time, and kind of we want to talk about your process tonight.
All right.
You ready to go?
Cool. Yeah.
Okay. We have talked to you about this, but your beginnings, you were born in New Jersey, right? Mm-hmm. But you've always been kind of into shopping.
Yeah. You do the suburban yard sale, flea market kind of thing. I've loved it since I was a little kid.
Yeah.
And New York is a very expensive place, so it makes sense to find things on the cheap.
So it was mainly just finding clothes for your own self? And,
Yeah, I went through definitely that college thrift store t-shirt, high school thrift store t-shirt, middle school, that kind of thing. And New York is a great place to find that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're saying that it's your parents kind of, they scavenge a little bit in their own lives.
Yeah,
definitely. Shop and...
Definitely. Yeah. My mom always took me to the local yard sales. There's a town-wide garage sale that we would always go to. I still go back to New Jersey.
I feel like our parents, or for a lot of us, the parents are the ones that have taught us that you can find all this cheap stuff here.
Sure.
Yeah,
and I would never be able to, I want that starter jacket. It was not happening. Yeah. So, then 2 years later when it's at the yard sale, we pick it up for $3 or whatever that style is.
Yeah.
But then what's interesting because, I think thrifting is fairly popular and has been since the 90s. Kids are always going and buying the older clothes. But very few of us actually make the jump to selling on eBay. Definitely. What was it for you that, was like, wait a second?
Yeah. Well, first I dabbled in Etsy. It was probably 2007 or so when it was kind of cool to sell on Etsy.
Yeah.
I always liked the sort of vintage ceramic tchotchkes, and that was really big then. So I decided, you know what, I have this stuff around. I'm going to list a couple things. I think the first thing I sold on Etsy was a trio of rhinestone pins for something like $11. So super cheap. I basically just gave it away.
Yeah.
But it sold probably within an hour and a half.
Wow.
So I was like, I can do this. And then what made the transition to eBay was that I found this Snoopy mug for $1. I was going to put it on Etsy for probably $11. And I happened to do a little Googling and found it was worth a lot of money. So it was one of those Fire King vintage sort of Snoopy mugs. So I put it on auction, as they suggested, to start at 99 cents, which, now it gives me sort of a heart attack, but it sold for $138.
Wow.
There you go. Yeah.
So I was like, all right, I'm in. eBay is a viable way to do this. So...
Yep. So you've been selling on eBay then pretty for about 3 or 4 years now? Or?
Yeah. There was a time when I sort of fell out of it just because moving in New York is one of the worst, most stressful things. Mm. So having a lot of breakable, adorable things, it wasn't fun. So I got rid of all that stuff, and then I got this hospital bill I got slammed with. And all told, it was about $2,000 that I really had to pony up, and I was sort of adamant that I didn't pay for it out of pocket. I sort of earned that money separately from my full-time job, and that's what I did through eBay sales.
I find that's the best. That the most successful people I see on eBay are the ones that have some kind of goal they're trying to fill. So if your goal was
for me it was,
I need to pay off this hospital bill.
It was there was sort of an added pressure of something that I needed to pay for.
A tangible goal that you were kind of filling.
Right. And especially because it seemed like I got this huge bill for basically nothing. They didn't know what to do, so they gave me a bunch of tests that all sort of, there was no result. So it was
Don't get
You
us
know what?
started on the
So, you know, it was like, all right, I'm going to earn this money, but I'm going to do it with something I like and something that's pretty easy and I know I've had success with before. So it was kind of made sense.
So how long did it take to pay off that $2,000 bill from eBay money?
Definitely under a year. I mean, at that point, I was really I didn't have a store.
Right.
I was just sort of selling. I can't even remember.
Right.
Yeah, probably like 9 months, 8 months. I mean, they let you do it in an installment plan, and I
bet they're just happy people are paying, because I'm sure a lot of people just walk away.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just so people know, because we're going to walk through its process like we do for all people we interview. So you have a full-time 40-hour-a-week job, right?
Yes. Yep. Monday through Friday.
And then you do this on the side or during your... Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So when we ask you, we go through its process, people should just keep that in mind, because there's a lot of people out there that don't sell full-time like us, who maybe never will, you know, because they like the security of their job. Maybe they even like
They like their job.
Can you believe that?
They might like their job.
But still,
possible.
you know, enjoy it's making the money. So, buying inventory.
Yes.
You've told us, basically, it's like lunch breaks, right?
It's basically, a lot of it is during lunch breaks.
Because you work
Because I work in Manhattan.
Yeah.
So, where I work, there are several places to go. I don't just go to one place. I have a little rotation, and it's either during lunch or after work. So, my time scavenging is not a lot.
So you're really like, you know, okay, it's lunch break, you have an hour, so really you only have like 40 minutes of scavenging with all the traveling.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
And when do you eat? Do you just kind of like eat at your desk? Or,
Yeah. Then it's a sad salad at the desk kind of situation. But at that same time, I'm searching sold, you know, listings on eBay. So.
Right.
Do you think
I'm
that
always working.
because you have that limited time that you really have to like hone your skills where you're like, you need to know, you can't just be like, oh, I'm going to look through everything. You're just like, boom,
there's no
boom, boom.
sort
Talk
of...
about that, yeah.
I mean, there are probably some days when I, you know, go through the rack a little more full. I mean, I primarily sell clothing because it's what I know. I know a bunch of the good brands and it's plentiful in Manhattan.
Right. And people don't understand, this isn't like where we are, where you go to Goodwill and it's like Old Navy, and I mean a lot of this is like high end.
Right.
You're able to find like
J. Crew is sort of like the Old Navy. Right. Everything's sort of leveled up in Manhattan. Right. Yeah. There's a ton of it. It's easy to find.
Yep.
But I do, you know, I'll go to the case immediately. You see what they consider as their finds.
The glass case.
The glass case. And I'm always, you know, sort of telling them to hurry up because I only have, you know, 20 more minutes left or what have you. But I mean, it's not hard to find high-end things pretty quickly.
Yeah. Now, what's the average price that you're paying for stuff, though?
Typically, I'll do between $4 to $10 per item.
Wow.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
And stuff can sell for $100 plus sometimes,
yes.
right? Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've found old sweatpants that I've sold for $125.
Wow.
Yeah, typically my average price is around $50 or $60 per item.
Yep.
I mean, we've, you know, when we come here, we hit some of the places that you probably hit, and it's definitely, you know, we don't really, our feet are a little wobbly here because it's much different from where we're at, from where we're from, because when we're at places, there aren't a lot of other scavengers, but I find here, I can sense there are people like us who are, they're hunting for things to sell, you know.
You'll see someone with maybe 2 baskets worth of clothes and you know that they're a reseller.
Yeah.
It's pretty obvious.
Yeah. And people go in there every day and, you know, like,
and I know some people who don't have full-time jobs go once in the morning, once after lunch.
You're seeing what's new.
Yes. Because on my days off, if I happen to do that, you know, they'll do the, all right, well, I'll see you later. So, you know that they're coming back.
Right.
Yeah.
That's cool. I mean,
I mean, there's definitely tons of competition.
Right.
I see the same people all the time at, the certain store, X, Y, and Z. And I know that I've seen people at a bunch of the other stores. So they have the same sort of route that I do. Yeah. There's X number in this radius, and they go there too.
Yeah.
But there's so much that there's a little something for everybody.
I think the interesting thing, too, is when you talk about scavenging on the blog, a lot of times it's talking about granny carts in subways, and I think that's something, too, that a lot of us don't have to experience because we all have cars,
Yes.
You just pull up,
throw it in the car,
open the trunk, and, we always talk about filling the car out. You have to actually, haul this stuff home, right?
Schlepping is a real live thing in New York City.
Right.
I've had to, at some point, I had to cave in and get a cab.
Yeah.
Because I've had
So
tons of
much
stuff or heavy
Right.
things. But most of the time, it's me with giant bags on the subway.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a true scavenger right there.
But you've also talked about, and I can picture, you're on the subway on the long ride home, and you're searching for things on eBay, right? Or sold items, or checking,
absolutely,
researching. So,
absolutely,
yeah.
I do a lot of that stuff in the store too.
Yeah.
If I don't, for me, storage is a real factor. New York City apartments are smaller, and I can't have tons of stuff that isn't going to sell.
Yeah, our thing of listing is forget it. Probably doesn't work quite as well for you.
Yeah, probably after I would say 2 years, I'm ready to get to chuck that stuff.
Yeah. So once you buy this stuff and you bring it home, what's your process of listing it with a full-time job?
Ideally, it's I sort of know how I'm going to price it, so I'll queue up those listings on my phone or on the desktop at work. Don't tell anyone. But and then I try and squeeze photos in either before I leave for work in the morning or on the weekends. Usually Sundays.
So how many hours a week
listing.
do you think is actually going into a listing? I know it's probably up and down, right?
Yeah. For just listing, no more than 4 a week.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It's also clothes. I don't need to do a lot of research or listing. That stuff doesn't take that long.
Right. And your store is around 300 items in your store?
Yes. Now it's probably 350, but average is probably 300, and it hasn't even been that for a while.
And we'll talk about its numbers later, but do you find as the inventory grows, more money is being made, or is it?
I think so. Probably last year, I don't think I reached 300 listings.
Yeah.
It was probably around 230, 240.
Yeah.
But I have noticed this year that my numbers have gotten a little stronger.
But that your income goes higher as you list more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I've been able to find things that sell for more money.
Yeah. I think that's interesting, too, when we talk about, the amount of things people list. We often, we don't always talk about that. We list more as much as we can, but I think our quality is going up as we, are doing this more.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's important.
You hone your skills, and you realize that, if I buy higher quality stuff, it sells for more. That's a slow process of
and just finding out what is high quality.
Right.
Sure.
My idea of high quality now versus 4 years ago is
Right.
Yeah. It just takes time.
Right. And you stop buying the stuff that at this point doesn't sell as much.
Right.
Yeah.
Because for me, probably $30 or $35 is my minimum.
Yeah.
At this point.
Yes.
Right.
My average is $60, so
That's amazing.
It's really good. Yeah, that's amazing.
It is really crazy when I think about it.
Yeah.
Do you have a special account that you buy out of, like a credit card, or does it all just come out of your?
Yes, I finally figured out it's easier. I just had to file taxes last year, so after I went through that horrible thing of, oh my god, what did I spend? What was my cost for any of this stuff? It all comes off of one card, so it just goes right to GoDaddy, and it's all there.
Okay, so you're listing and now storing inventory.
Mm-hmm.
You guys actually probably have a pretty sizable apartment compared to maybe some people.
Yes.
Because you're out in Queens. Or
Yes.
If I can say that.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
And it is a large apartment for even that neighborhood.
Right.
Okay. You know.
So do you have like a whole bedroom, or where's your stuff stored?
No, it is in every room, much to the chagrin and horror of my boyfriend. But I tried, at one point it was 2 bins. It was 2 Rubbermaid, bins, men's and women's, and that was it.
So simple, right?
Right. And then, okay, women's tops and women's bottoms. And then from there, the bins kept multiplying. So right now it's a mix of giant Ziploc bags, bins, shoe rack, under the bed storage, and just out in the open. This is what it is.
So what % of your inventory is not online yet? Or
maybe 20%.
Oh, that's good.
God,
is that okay?
Us.
That's
Is that all right?
What do you calculate for us, Jay?
For us?
Yeah.
I mean, we've been doing pretty good
With
getting
the
through our
bins,
stuff.
yeah, that's true.
I mean, we might be like, I don't know.
It's hard to tell, yeah.
It's hard to tell. Maybe 30%. But
It's not bad.
But it's just because we have a large listed inventory. So
Right.
I think
true.
30% is a lot of stuff, but compared to what we have,
Right.
Right.
I would say 2 garbage bags, an IKEA bag. That's
So I mean, but are
That's
you
the
pretty good about keeping up with what you're doing, or is it like you're always shopping more than you can list?
the opportunity to shop is there.
Yeah.
Definitely. And because it's clothes, it's sort of hard to say, I don't want to. If it's just a couple of shirts, I'm like, just add it to the pile. It's fine.
They're small.
It'll get listed. And I will say, during the winter, it is pretty rough to go out to the thrift stores because you're on foot.
Yeah.
It's cold. It's miserable.
That's why, we live on the East Coast too. I love the winter times because things kind of shut down a little bit. There's no flea markets or yard sales.
Yeah.
It's hard to get places. It gets dark earlier.
Yeah.
It kind of makes you be inside, and I love that because I feel like that's when we're the most productive.
Yeah.
Because we can really focus.
Yeah,
Right.
because it gets dark at 3:45.
4 o'clock,
You're
yeah.
like,
Right.
you have this much time.
And I have a full-time job, so
Yeah.
I can't even
Yeah.
take photos.
Right.
Sometimes it's too dark in the morning, so
Ooh,
I
that's right.
really am only listing on the weekends.
Right. Yeah. And that's for those people that have these full-time jobs and God forbid kids. I'm just like, wow.
Yeah.
Well,
It's where's the time? Yeah.
I'm just saying, and then your weekends, you don't want to be putting in these full days of listing,
Sure. It's definitely in spurts.
Right.
Because I also have a life, so if people want to go out, there's only so many times I can say no. This is an eBay day.
Right.
It's only
But I guess that's the thing. Those of us that do this, and those of you who have jobs doing this, there must be some enjoyment, right? It's not just the money, or is it mainly
eBay or
eBay?
Oh yeah.
Oh
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I've always been good at having the eye, I think, and I love a good deal, so it makes sense.
Yeah.
And in New York, you can never have enough play money, so some of it goes to that, and some of it gets saved.
Yep. Okay. Stuff is stored and listed, and when things sell, so how do you handle shipping things? Are you doing a next day shipping?
Yeah.
Okay.
Usually I will try and pack it up that night. So if something sells at night, it's a mad rush before I go to work to find the thing.
Yeah.
So I can get it in that day. And I schedule pickup at my office.
Ooh.
Yeah.
What?
So not only am I schlepping things from the store, I'm schlepping things back into the city because my apartment is a house.
Right.
I live in a house, and I have no. I'm not going to
put it
keep
on the porch.
No, I can't put it on the porch.
So it's easier to do that than to go to a local post office and drop it off.
Yeah, a lot of the times, if it's only probably a year ago, I realized the things that have the eBay labels can just, if it fits in the mailbox, it can go in the mailbox.
Yep.
There's, for some reason, I had this idea, you have to get it picked up because they have that little sign on there. But no, you can just put it in the mailbox and that's it.
if it's big enough, then
if it's big
gotta be a
enough,
pickup.
then I'll schedule a pickup.
What do people at work think when like the postman's coming?
You're like, here's a box.
Hopefully it just looks like a normal sort of businessy office transaction.
They don't need to know. Yeah.
But the friends who know what I do, they're like, you had a good weekend, a sale. You know? And it's like, I mean, I remember at some point in the fourth quarter, it was like, I had a lot of stuff to bring.
Yeah, it's a lot.
And I had to sort of be strategic about what I could bring. I mean, the commute in the morning sometimes is really crazy. I have an IKEA bag.
I mean, we know what that's like. I can remember when I worked here and I'd go to work in the morning. I mean, the subways are often packed. I mean, it's like scan your room only. I can't imagine bringing like bags and stuff.
A Le Creuset cast iron. I mean, I've got some arm muscles.
Yeah.
Now, did you have a boyfriend?
Yes.
Did you guys live together?
Yes.
Does he participate at all in this business?
He does sell some things by himself on his account.
Right.
We don't do it together, but we do go sometimes to the thrift store together.
Mm-hmm.
He looks at records and sort of audio equipment, and I'm in a different section.
But does he participate in at your store at all, or no? Just because he would be in the way, or because he's just not interested, or
I don't know. I don't think he's interested. Yeah. I mean, he does see that I make decent money.
Right.
I mean, when he started getting into selling his own items, I think he had interest that way, but certainly not in the clothes, in the weird vintage items kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would think that if he was into records, he'd be into weird vintage stuff.
You know what? I think his love for cool, interesting things versus the apartment looking insane and crazy. You know, that's sort of a constant.
I mean, we talk about that with different people on the podcast of the difference it is when someone has a partner that's down with the scavenging and being with a partner that is like always against it, and so it sounds like he's at least for
He's not against it.
Right.
I mean, there are certainly certain days when it's like, this is too much stuff.
Yeah.
It's got to happen.
Right.
You know, but if I did it full time, I think he would be supportive.
So he doesn't ever think like, well, if you're making good money, if I helped you, we could make more money, or
I don't think so.
He likes his job.
I think, I mean, I think he likes his job enough, and I don't know. I mean, I think if maybe we moved away from New York, and there were, the job market was a little different.
I mean, we're going to talk about its money in a bit, or as much as you feel, comfortable talking about. But, I guess, too, that is the interesting thing about being here. It's so expensive to live in New York.
Yeah.
And you do pretty well.
Yeah.
But it's not like you're rolling in money because just life is expensive here.
Exactly.
If you guys lived, like where we lived,
sure,
you'd be
Yeah.
upper middle class, you know?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, New York, it helps to have more money. No matter where you are, you could always...
It's almost like you can't have enough money.
Right.
In some ways,
right.
Yeah, it seems like
that. And definitely if you're in the middle, it's tough.
Yeah.
It's rent plus groceries plus...
Just walking out of the house, you spend $20 just on coffee or whatever else, I mean, like, we're pretty frugal people, and we've been here 2 weeks, and I'm like, adding up how much we're spending. We're cooking a lot in this apartment here. We're still spending $400 a week just being in the city, just enjoying life.
Going to the movies, getting a slice of pizza, it adds up.
Right. Yeah. And that is much different from where we live, where there's just, I think that there's just fewer opportunities to even spend money.
That's true.
That's what's helpful.
It's very
New York makes it very easy to spend.
It's very tempting everywhere.
Okay, so you're getting this stuff shipped, people at your work think you're running a business. So how do you deal with customers when they're unhappy or just period?
Knock on wood, I haven't had too many crazy customer issues. I mean, primarily it's clothing, so if it doesn't fit,
just hassle-free.
It's hassle-free. 20% restocking fee.
Yeah. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Brian. Because it really covers
Yeah.
you know, your costs and your time.
What percent? Because clothes. What percent of stuff comes back? 5%, you think? Or?
It's a lot less. I've
Really?
been pretty lucky, and I'm not sure if it's because of the higher prices.
Right. Because we've always said it seemed like the higher end stuff, those kind of people don't really return things as much as like the $10 items.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but I don't know. I've definitely had people decide just to keep it.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. I don't know if they don't want to pay the restocking fee, which doesn't really make sense, but
So I'm always interested to hear from people. So when you were starting out selling on eBay, have you evolved dealing with customers? Like, were you more angry and fighting people? Were you sadder? I mean, like, what was
luckily, I haven't gotten into too many crazy fights with people. I tried to do whatever I could to sort of appease them. You'll keep the item, I'll give you a partial refund. I would still say, if I were to evaluate myself, I would need to respond to messages more quickly. But I'm at work.
Yeah,
I can't
it's hard.
tell you what the chest size of this certain shirt is right away. I just can't.
But you're answering people who aren't asking those kind of questions pretty quickly.
I mean, I've tried to add better measurements in the beginning. At first, I was just like, I can't be bothered.
Yeah.
And fingers crossed. But that doesn't really work with clothing.
Yeah, I mean, people, especially people who sell clothes. Yeah, you can't just take a picture of the tag and hope
Size
that's
medium.
enough.
It's not.
Right.
If you don't want things to come back.
Correct.
Or people just asking, I mean, we even have full its measurements.
People still ask.
Yes.
Because they don't.
Like, I just paste the measurements in the message.
Right.
Here it is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it is funny when I have an item that's in my cubicle and then they ask for measurements. I can give it to you right away. It's right there. So I have had some things,
Yeah. You kind
never
of
actually make it home.
You kind of talked about this because we've all had cubicles, or a lot of us have, and you talked about having kind of your cubicles
Stuff full.
Jam packed.
Got some stuff under there. It's not
Got
at
some
home.
secret goodies.
Yeah. So is that stuff that's not online, or it is online?
No, that stuff is usually not online.
Yeah, you just haven't been taken home yet.
And you just gotta
Schlep
back
it.
to the subway.
Schlep it.
Take it home.
Yeah. Also, I find with different people that sell on eBay, some people are big into calling eBay, and some people will never call eBay. Mm-hmm. Where did you fall in that?
Luckily, I haven't had to call eBay too many times. If I've called maybe twice to get my limits increased, and that's been on the weekend.
Okay.
There's a long wait to get on the phone with eBay.
Yeah.
So I really can't do that at work.
Yeah. It can be a long time.
Yeah.
So sometimes not. It's strange. It kind
sometimes
of
it's not.
goes.
Sometimes it is. Right. Or they'll transfer you 4 times.
Yes.
Right. And you're
I can't do other transfers.
It's 45 minutes goes on.
You're just
So it's money and numbers.
Money and numbers.
So
I did do some tallies.
Good. Okay. Yeah. So I think it's just helpful. So it's your part time. We've talked.
Yes.
We've established this. You have about 300 items in your store, but when you post numbers on the blog, they're actually pretty good because you're selling such high end stuff.
Right.
So I know you want to share.
Sure, I can share. So I have not been good at downloading my archived sales reports or even looking at them.
Yeah.
Until today, maybe.
Very well.
But, okay, so the average monthly sales, this is totally not with, this is just...
like gross.
Yeah,
gross.
Gross. Is $3,334 a month.
Wow. That's for 2015 or
for 2015.
Okay.
And that's, with 7 months.
Yeah, so it's before eBay fees and inventory costs and
yes, yep, that was just strictly sales.
Right.
Cool. The average price or average sold price is $74.
Wow.
Any other numbers?
Well, 2014 was the average was about 2,500, and the average price sold was $61.
So those are high numbers.
So now, when I was saying you were making crazy money, I mean that's that's a rent, you know?
Yeah.
That's like rent on,
Yeah.
you know, a nice, decent apartment, you know?
Yeah.
Or a house.
Yeah.
So it's not...
It was a lot higher than I thought.
funny money.
Yeah.
So even if you're
It's a
making
lot higher than
33,
I
even
thought.
if you say 20% for all the fees, you're still making, you know,
Right.
$2,500.
And the cost of the items.
Right. So, you know, because, you know, eBay PayPal's about, you know, 11%.
Yeah.
So that's not bad. I mean, that's pretty good. So, okay.
Thanks, guys.
So now,
you guys give me the
numbers.
confidence. You gotta just put high numbers up.
yeah.
Yep.
I mean, is that something that's evolved over time? Is being confident in
Yeah.
putting high numbers?
Absolutely. I mean, if you think logically, there should not be a pair of used sweatpants that sell for $125. At all.
Sweatpants were they?
They were
were
Lucky
just-
Brand from the year 2000, I don't know, maybe 4 or something.
So they were
It's a certain
like-
look.
Yeah.
It's a certain
But you know,
rare.
We were talking
But you
about
do the
this-
research.
Yeah.
If you look and
Yeah.
you look at the solds, it makes sense
Yeah.
to sell it at that price.
Right.
I mean, we were talking before the podcast started. I mean, just it seems a lot of times everything's just a level of Pokemon or a Beanie Baby.
It's the
You know, it's just like
collectors.
Yeah.
Why?
every item has some kind of collector out there for it who's
Right.
willing to. They're filling that niche. Like you were saying, we were talking about the highest price items that you'd sold. That polo sweatshirt. That
Yes.
You
Yep.
bought for what, $4 or $5 or something?
It was
there?
$7.99 New York
There you go.
City prices.
$8.
Yeah, $8 for a sweatshirt. But I knew that people look for a certain kind of polo item,
Yeah.
specifically made in the years 1992, 1993. It's just a certain look. There's even a documentary about those guys and
Lowheads, right?
the Lowheads. Yeah.
Ooh, we gotta look up that documentary.
Yeah, it's
now.
cool. So, yeah, I thought it was a $200 maybe max sweatshirt, and turns out one had just sold maybe a couple months before for about $600.
Wow.
And it had some stains or something on it, and mine looked really great. So I said, $925. I'm just
Wow.
gonna shoot really high based on what Jay and Ryan told me. So I took a nap. I got all these offers in the meantime, and then pretty much in under an hour it sold.
Yeah. And then I remember too, it wasn't that long ago, maybe 6 months, when you found that bottle of perfume, that
Perfume
empty
bottle.
bottle.
Yeah, empty Lalique bottle.
Right.
Yep.
And that was
$1,600. That's what I remember.
Where'd you come up with that price? You're just
You can do a lot of research, especially for something like Lalique, which has a sort of following and
Yeah.
has been sold in galleries or whatever.
Right.
But at some point, you just have to sort of aim high,
right.
be reasonable to offers, and it didn't. It worked out.
Well, why don't you say at the end of each month now, after fees, I think it sounds like you're probably it's making about $2,500. Mm-hmm. So where does that money go? Is that going towards bills? Is that play money for you? Is it savings?
Yes, I have definitely used a bunch of it as play money. Pretty much my credit card bill always gets paid off by eBay.
Good.
And I saved a bunch.
Good.
I mean, I've been able to actually save as opposed to, you save what you can with your paycheck, and
Right.
this offers me,
I guess, I always wonder, because I have not always been good at this, but it's important. Are you and your boyfriend saving for anything specific, or are you just saving just...
Sure. I mean, essentially I have different savings accounts labeled house,
Yeah.
art. I want to invest in art. I like art, and
Yep.
now I can save $10 a week for art. And weddings. Weddings are expensive, and we
Yep.
travel.
Yep.
Travel is a lot easier when you have money to
Yeah.
be able to save for and
Yeah.
do that stuff with.
Yep.
You're talking about possibly going to Thailand, maybe.
Maybe for a wedding.
Should be
The only problem is those pesky jobs.
Yeah.
They get in the way.
Yeah.
That's the only thing. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So at your job, did you get, 10 days paid vacation? 2 weeks?
15.
Wow.
That's
I have 3 weeks.
Wow.
And then, personal days and sick days.
That's not bad.
It's not bad.
Do they
It's
allow...
never enough, though.
Do they allow you to take it all at one time, or do they make
I don't.
you...
I have taken a 2-week vacation before,
Okay, good.
and that was in 2010.
Wow.
Whoa.
So
That was a while ago.
that has been a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was a young eBay, without eBay money person.
Yeah.
But I mean, is eBay now, the money that you're making, is it pretty important to your lifestyle, or could it all
I
end
have
and you're
always
fine?
viewed it as extra. I don't rely on that money, but thinking about it in terms of, would I leave my job? Then I start thinking, okay, I need to hold on to this money. I need to not spend it as soon as.
So, on our blog, every month or so, there's always one person that's like, I just did it. I just quit my job. And you're one of the biggest cheerleaders.
Yeah.
Do it.
Of course.
So, I mean, is it what's, on a scale of 1 to 100, what reality is it that you could actually quit your job and make a living on eBay? I mean, is it more fantasy or is it more
No, I think it is reality. I mean, I think there are certain things in my life that I want to line up before I do that.
Sure.
I would love to be in New York and not have a full-time job and be a
imagine,
seller.
I love New York so much, and I love it more now that I don't have a job here because of what you said. When I was working 40 or 50 hours a week, I just didn't have time to enjoy. But now that we've been here for 2 weeks, it's
it's great.
I have time to walk
amazing.
around. And
Anytime you're out in New York
Right.
on a weekday and you see people walking around, you're like, what is everybody doing here?
Who are you people?
Don't you have jobs?
Yeah.
Why aren't you in the office?
Yeah.
I mean, I say that to myself all the time.
Yeah.
But
So, what do you think that would look like if you were full-time eBay? Would you be one of those people hitting the stores twice a day? Would you,
I think, again, storage is probably the limiting factor.
Right.
But yeah, I would go a lot more. Because you think in your head, okay, if I'm strictly limited to my lunch break, what am I missing out on?
Right.
There's so much great stuff.
And maybe even expanding your network of places to go.
Sure, absolutely.
It's like we were talking about a sample sales, which I'd never heard of before. It's New York. These sales where it's
a designer,
a runway
Mm-hmm.
pieces and stuff like that.
Those are really cool. I think
Right.
Yeah, and they happen all the time here.
every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much, I mean, New York is the hub of that kind of fashion.
Yeah. So they're just dumping out there. It's closet, but this is the cream of the crop,
Yeah. Absolutely. And that stuff is new, unused,
Yep.
high dollar stuff.
Yeah. Do you think 2 years is a reality? I mean,
Absolutely.
I'm just wondering.
Give us the
No,
time.
you guys need to put the pressure on.
I mean-
I think I'm hoping in a year's time I'll be in a different place.
Wow.
Definitely.
That's
That's
I mean, things
yeah,
like this is a big deal.
Yeah,
you
especially
know?
in Manhattan area.
Where you're choosing to leave a job versus what you hear a lot of people that get into eBay or Amazon. It's I don't have a job.
I lost
or
my job.
They
or,
push me out.
Yeah,
or something like that.
Right.
So it's always a big deal when people are
choosing it.
It's like us. We chose to do this. For the freedom.
Absolutely. I mean, New York is a crazy city, but it's affordable if you plan it out right.
Yeah. I mean,
it's a walkable city.
Yep.
There's certainly, and you guys in your 2 weeks have probably walked a ton.
Yeah.
And found a lot.
5 miles a day sometimes.
Yeah.
Just and I've said it before too. Once you live here and find a decent place to live, it is affordable in a way.
Sure.
Yeah, you can be frugal.
We have been spending a lot, but that's mainly because we're really enjoying ourselves.
Right.
But if you're just here down and dirty, cooking all your meals,
Yeah.
Right.
Subway's cheap. I mean,
Yep.
cheaper than a car.
Right.
Right. You just have to have the arms.
Right.
The IKEA bag.
And so
Those IKEA bags.
So as far as taxes go, you would mention that you're just using GoDaddy bookkeeping, kind of keeping all your expenses.
Yes.
And
yes. I had a shoebox, a literal shoebox of receipts. And on a whim, I decided, I should probably save this. I think I might hit that limit, and it happened, and I was completely unprepared. And
so that was it's pre bookkeeping. You were just
yeah. That first year when I got that 1099 for PayPal. It was like...
It's like, oops.
Did you do taxes? I mean, did a person help you do your taxes, like an accountant?
Yes.
Okay.
But it took a lot to sort of get those numbers ready.
Yeah.
Right. And it's, it's a horrible...
So, what does it feel like now? I mean, are you...
It's
kind of keeping up with it?
Yes, I'm trying very, very hard. Yeah. But the important part was sort of getting all your expenses in.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the key factor.
Right. And labeling it and teaching a software what your expenses are.
Right.
Yeah. The subway, the cabs, and even the meal and the meals out. You know, I mean, it all counts. So why not take advantage?
Yeah, I mean, even when we started to use GoDaddy bookkeeping, which we aren't an advertisement for, we just found that was a useful accounting. Even that one year when we had used it, it was still a lot of work at the end of the year because
I hadn't been keeping up with it. I do it on the first of the month now, but before I was like, oh, I didn't do anything, and then it's like. Just April, I'm like,
first of the month just is making sure we're importing cards that can't be read and labeling things and so
just
it's
getting
much
the numbers
now.
correct in time.
Even just that move to putting everything on one card, which seems like a very simple step, but you know when you're doing it as a hobby, you're not treat it like a hobby. You don't have any kind of discipline, so
I think
learning to.
I think a lot of it's new people were just like us, where it feels like I'm just like having a yard sale, you know, and it just feels like the Wild West. But then if you're making $20,000 or more, that's serious money. I mean, that's like a full-time job for some people who are making his minimum wage. So no more fooling around.
I'm not messing around here.
It was a painful couple of weeks.
We had similar experiences in the beginning too, when we were like, "Oh, this is a job. This is real."
Yeah.
I need to like expense everything that I.
Otherwise I owe a lot of money.
A lot of money.
Yeah, because it's all about expenses. You know,
yes.
And that was something new for me because I'd always worked for someone else where they just take money automatically out of your account and I'm just doing 10 really easy because I don't have any expenses.
Yeah, you just...
Now I know it's all... I mean, this is just what you hear about businessmen and, you know, people that own stores. It's all about expenses. You expense everything.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. Well... Also, you're working all the time. Sure. I mean, that's the thing. Is like people are like, "Oh, you can't expense stuff. You're not working." I'm like, I work all the time. I'm working in New York right now.
Right.
Absolutely,
I'm buying merchandise. I'm selling stuff while we're here.
The business trip is a new thing.
Yeah,
I didn't know existed and is very legitimate.
Yeah,
because recently, didn't you go to that big yard crawl or that?
I have gone 3 times.
Wow,
the world's longest yard sale,
and that's in.
But that was all before really I was selling hardcore. Yeah.
It goes through several states, right?
It does.
It goes through a ton of states.
Yeah, it's like
Michigan, basically to Alabama.
Yeah, it's like all the way down. It's crazy.
On just one road or one?
Oh my God.
127.
127. That's people are
at some point.
About it.
It's simply 2 lanes.
Yeah. Wow.
And it is
you're
crazy.
just like.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a great time.
It's so American, you know.
Yeah, it's really Americana to do that.
Wow.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
Yeah, good people, good food, totally different.
Yeah.
I mean, it was an escape from the city, that's for sure.
Yeah,
absolutely,
definitely.
Cool. So, I mean, other than this idea of maybe one day quitting at your job and doing this, do you have any goals or anything you have planned for the near future, or is it just kind of keeping up?
No, I mean, I want to keep up, and I want to, keep those piles of death small, you know, because it can very easily take over your whole apartment. But I think having almost even just a number goal for my savings, that's a goal to reach.
Yep.
And I do have, those goals in mind.
Yep. And how do you, because I think this, to me, is the most important thing to ask people is how do you keep yourself as motivated and not bored or burnt out? I mean, or is it just inherently it's just fun and you just,
I love a good deal.
Yeah.
And I also love that ka-ching, that sort of feeling that you found this thing in this dirty place
in the corner, buried,
and and you're, and especially here, I'm selling it to somebody 20 blocks away.
That's funny.
A ton of people from Manhattan buy my stuff, and they sometimes live closer to the thrift store than I do.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's that hunt.
Now, can we talk about those plates real quick? I mean, it's pretty exciting. We're always like trying to find higher end stuff to sell. You recently went to a thrift store and bought these like plates for $4 that might be worth how much? I mean, let's talk about them.
I found 11 plates of a certain kind of mid-century design. At least to my pretty much untrained eye, looked nice, but unknown.
But I think that's interesting. You didn't know it, but you could kind of tell it was special, right?
Yes.
So it's worth the risk.
You could see the quality. And
and I follow a bunch of people who like mid-century design.
Right.
I myself, I appreciate it, but I am no means an expert. I like art history, but I don't. I definitely did not recognize it right away. So I stood at the thrift store, searched for ceramic fish plate, searched, completed top to bottom, and they were the top. One plate had sold for $350. Wow. Another one had sold for $325. Right. And there were 11 of them sitting there. So
you're having a panic attack.
I was sort of trying to keep myself from freaking out.
And that had just been at like a regular thrift store.
Yes.
It wasn't like
yes. And this was, basically right after work, got out of the subway, sort of hustled over, because at that point it's 6:30, it closes at 7, and I had made the decision, I'm kind of lazy, I'm just going to go home, get to the one by my house, and there they were.
Perfect timing. Yep.
They were, in fact, too heavy for me to lug home, so I had to promise that I would come back with my granny cart, which I did that day, and I picked them up.
We were also trying to see how much they could be worth. These could be worth, who knows?
A lot.
Who knows?
Maybe even $1,000 each.
I think because you might be the only person selling them. That's part of it. Yeah. Not just I posted them on Instagram just as a sort of like, can you believe it? A little tease. Them,
and I did not expect it, but all these people sort of messaged me, not, how much are they? It was more like, if you decide to let these go.
Right.
So for those in the know and those who want them, they want them.
Yep.
Yeah. Whereas
so people are looking for them.
People are looking for them.
Yeah.
So
it's almost like those ones are tough because we know it's what that's like when we kind of sometimes feel out of our element and we're like a little bit like nervous and because
what's the high point? Like what's the tipping point of like
exactly. I don't want to turn people off from
But then, you don't want to put them on auction, and then, they only sell for $75.
Yeah. That's a tough call. Yes. But you have 11 of them, so you can put one up, test the waters,
see what happens.
Yeah. That's what's interesting about that find.
So do it tomorrow.
So by the time you get home, on the subway,
everyone on the blog will all talk about it. When it sells.
We will.
Yeah. Feel free to just add a bid to the...
But I think that's an interesting thing about living here is because there is that kind of wealth, there will be people that just give that stuff away,
They're just like...
I was really terrified someone would... Because I did go back the following morning. It was one of those... I need to take half a personal day. Called me up because in case there were more, or in case it was part of a larger donation of awesome stuff. Right. I was one of those.
You're like,
I was there with my granny cart at 9:50, waiting for the store to open, just waiting for more, just in case more stuff came.
And there wasn't.
More fish plates.
But I mean, I couldn't not.
So crazy.
Try. You have to try.
Absolutely.
It's so funny. If you hadn't gotten those might have been just bought by some guy who's eating hot dogs off of them.
That's the thing. It's
hey guys, come on.
They're not. That's the thing. And they were $3.99. They're $4 each. You know, right. It's like someone could have just bought two. One could have just been broken along the way. I mean, it's
It's kind of amazing. Even really 11 nuts. Of them, you know,
got there
in one piece, not separated.
How I picture it is someone had a family member, and they were like, "These are just the plates from." TJ Maxx or just...
What, they died, you mean? Or,
like an estate. I picture something... Like, someone didn't know what they were. Because they're clearly an art piece, a collectible art piece.
Yeah.
Right.
They just look like plates you would use in your kitchen when you're serving people at a, barbecue.
Right.
But if you know what they are, you're like, oh, no.
See, this is the kind of stuff we're talking about is what... keeps us going,
right?
You know,
yes,
is when you
finds
find
like that. That's exciting.
And that's why I love doing this versus retail arbitrage or whatever, because I think even when you find something that might sell for double or whatever people are finding, it's never
still not as fun.
Juicy as what we're talking about. Like
the thrill of the hunt, is
not just the money aspect, but just like the cool, like you've saved this thing. That,
And I also don't like. I mean, I've sort of dabbled in retail arbitrage, and I always feel uneasy about that money. I always feel like this could have been put to a lot better use. You know, you spend more, you make less.
Yeah.
There's not that feeling of you saw something that somebody else didn't.
Right. You could have the only one online. That's the thing about these.
Yeah.
You could be the only person that has those available.
But just so the retail arbitrages don't hate me. It's so cool.
Disclaimer.
It's cool.
If you're making money, that's cool. I guess I'm just trying to make a point of like this is the kind of thing that sustains us month after month.
Right.
Finding
year
the treasures.
After year now, you know, and we just see that, and that's just my biggest fear is just the burnout. Like one day we're going to be like, I hate this.
Yeah.
You know, it feels like a job.
Yeah.
You know, how do we continue to make this feel like an exciting thing
little treasures.
than just another dumb job that we kind of, a sweatshop that we made for ourselves.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And do you ever, just kind of wrap this up, do you ever go to any auctions or that's...
No, I haven't, but I would love to.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
And if you talked about art, do you ever want to try and like flip, find art and sell it? Or?
I do have what is in my pile of death is, I do have a bunch of paintings. I don't think any of them are, really valuable, but I like them, and I like sort of holding on to them. And
well, I mean, things don't have to be $1,000, but
sure.
I mean, even the most,
a few $100 for just random pieces, unsigned.
Yeah, I have yet to. I don't think I've sold one painting because I don't think I've listed them. I think I like holding on to them.
Oh, okay.
I think none of them are up in my apartment, but I still like having them.
Oh.
Yeah.
For a future place.
For a future place, or maybe I will sell them. Some of that stuff is just. It's a lot easier for me to list a shirt than a painting I'd have to look up.
Yeah.
Right.
And I like having it. You know?
Yep.
Although I don't have much use for clothing that doesn't fit me or
Well, thanks for coming on today.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
The legendary Flim.
Internet friends.
Exactly.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.